Welcome back. We're at Unit 1, Lesson 6, and this is all about tuning. And tuning is actually much harder than playing the guitar, especially for beginners. So the bottom line is I really recommend that you practice tuning with your teacher or an experienced guitar instructor or player, just so that you don't get yourself into trouble, because it's really easy to get the guitar way out of whack. In general, when in doubt, just don't tune it and just live with it. Especially in these first lessons, we're not playing chords, so the tuning isn't that important. But I do want to talk to you about how to do it. So the big rule for tuning is never turn the peg unless you've picked the string. And it's really common to pick the incorrect string. In other words, you go to grab this, say, the tuning peg for the sixth string, but you pick the fifth string. So you think you've picked the string and you start turning this and nothing's happening. So it's also really important, getting back to what I said earlier about musicians use their ears and they listen. It's really important that you are kind of present when you tune and make sure that if it doesn't seem like things are working out right, it probably isn't right. And so when you turn the peg, you should hear the pitch change. And if you're not, that's probably an indication that you're doing something wrong. You picked the wrong string or grabbed the wrong peg, something to that effect. The other thing is, it's a really good idea to take note of where the peg is when you start tuning. In general, you're not going to need to turn the peg more than about a quarter turn. So if you find yourself cranking on the peg, that's a bad sign. So really a quarter turn is about all you're ever going to need to do. So if it's not getting right, make sure you go back to where you started so you don't get yourself too far out of whack. Okay, so I'm going to give an example of tuning the string. You may hear a little beep because I do have my electronic tuner on and it makes an audible sound. But if I pick the string and turn the peg, I hear the pitch go higher. And if I turn the peg the other way, I hear the pitch go lower. And what we want to do is we want to tune it until it's in tune. And the best way to do this when you're a beginner is to use an electronic tuner. There's the tuner telling me I've got it in tune. So I'm going to show you now. You can look at the tuner and you can see what's going on. If the note is too low, generally the needle or graphic will go to the left. And on this particular app, it actually says the words too low. And this is a phone app on my iPhone that you're looking at. You can get a clip-on tuner as well. When it's in tune, you'll see that the two bars come up, and I'm too high, the indicator will go to the right of center. And of course, too high is more dangerous than too low, because that's when you start to break strings. Remember, if you can't hear this note, the tuner can't hear the note either. This tuner right now is set to an automatic mode, but some tuners you have to actually select the note that you're tuning. And so it's really important that you remember the strings. From the sixth, it's E, fifth is A, D, G, B, and E. That way you know what note to select on your tuner. So that's a really important aspect of tuning, is to be very aware of what note you're tuning, what string you're playing, and making sure you pick it before you turn and being aware of where you started. I'm going to point out that a good way to figure out what peg, if you're confused, is to literally follow the string up, and it's like, oh, it goes to that peg, so that's the third string. And again, if I tune it, I can hear it's going higher, and I can hear it's going lower. Until I get it just right. Now, another thing about the electronic tuners in general is we don't want to pick the string like this, even though it might read, and we don't want to wait too long. There's sort of a sweet spot where if I'm playing a note, this is a good place to tune. You can see the tuner kind of responds a little later in the note. That's about the right amount of time to pick it. The clip-on tuners often will mount on your peg head here, and sometimes guitars will even have them built in, especially if it's an acoustic electric. The advantage of the clip-on type is that it's not affected by sound in the room, so a lot of musicians really like those. There's also a plug-in type tuner. The one on the iPhone or on your phone, any kind of app, it relies on the microphone, and so if there's additional noise in the room, it can confuse it. So it's important that you have a quiet room if you're using an app. All right, I think that covers tuning, and we will see you at lesson 7. Happy tuning.